All right, so I think we're just waiting for people to stream in.
Good morning.
Hey Luke, how you doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking forward to this.
Likewise. It's gonna be fun.
I think we've got Tiago now. Tiago, I've just invited you to speak. And then we're just waiting for Aziz. Hey Tiago, how you doing? Good. Okay, now we've got Aziz coming up as well. All right, Aziz, can you hear us?
Hey Josh, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Great.
All right. I think people are starting to stream in now. Just going to do this last thing, and then we'll get underway. Okay. Right. As I just said to Luke, I'm really looking forward to this one. Not every day you get not only Moonbeam but Moonwell and StellaSwap on one space. Um, So I guess a first thing to do for everyone in the crowd, can you guys go ahead and just introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'll jump in. So my name is Luke Youngblood, and I'm a co-founder of Moonwell. So Moonwell is an open, decentralized lending and borrowing protocol on Moonbeam and Moonriver. We've been operating since February. We first launched on Moonriver, and we launched on Moonbeam in June. And it's been really exciting to be a part of the Moonbeam ecosystem. Also been collaborating pretty closely with StellaSwap and other leading protocols like SolarBeam in the Sama ecosystem, and really excited to welcome Wormhole, who just arrived a few weeks ago to Moonbeam, and it's really opened up a lot of new opportunities for the Moonbeam ecosystem. So excited to be here to talk to you all today about it.
My name is Thiago. I'm a head of ambassador for Moonbeam and Moonriver. I've been working with Moonbeam for 1 year and a half now, I guess. It's time flies for sure. And I'm also a member of the grant committee, and we were all part of this process, to with this new phase that we are living in and really excited about.
Hey everyone, my name is Aziz. I'm one of the co-founders of StellaSwap. We're the leading decentralized exchange on Moonbeam. We launched a few hours after Moonbeam network went live back in January, and we've been a leading DEX ever since. And yeah, we're really excited to sort of like kickstart the growth of the Moonbeam ecosystem. StellaSwap is basically an integrated DEX, right, with a standard AMM, a stable AMM, as well as an upcoming concentrated liquidity AMM, which is going to be very cool. And yeah, we've been working with a lot of key protocols around the ecosystem, like Moonwell, Beefy, Lido, My Finance. So it's really an honor to work with so much talented teams, and our main objective is just to keep on growing and spearheading the ecosystem.
It's great to have you guys on. So just as a bit of an intro, I'm Josh. I'm one of the community managers for Wormhole, and I think what I'll do is a bit of an intro to Wormhole, as I'm sure there's people in the crowd who don't know exactly what it is. But at its basis, Wormhole is actually a core messaging layer, which allows cross-chain communications of things like of state for assets, data, and apps. I think probably the most well-known thing is Portal, that is built on top of Wormhole's messaging layer, which is a token and NFT bridge. But yeah, we are really excited to have you guys all in one place and get an opportunity to talk about Moonwell, Moonbeam, and StellaSwap. So my first question would be, why did you decide to build on Polkadot?
I guess I can jump in first here. So first of all, we've been big fans of the Polkadot ecosystem for several years now, going back all the way to 2019 Web3 Summit, which really inspired us when Substrate framework was released. And new parachains could basically pick and choose what modules they wanted and build their own L1 blockchain that runs with the shared security on the Polkadot network. The thing that really appeals to us the most about Polkadot is interoperability. And by interoperability, what I mean is that parachains, which are layer one blockchains on Polkadot, and the applications on top of them, like Moonwell, which is a lending protocol, can basically communicate with each other over cross-consensus messaging. So that means that a smart contract on one parachain can talk to a smart contract on another. This opens up new use cases that just didn't exist before. Those messages are also highly secure. They're secured by the relay chain. And we saw this being able to develop cross parachain applications as being key to the future of Web3 and of crypto. If you look at like Web 2, the way that many applications are formed, you're actually using 10 or 12 different cloud services, whether you realize it or not, just to load a simple application on your phone or a website in your browser. And we think this is the future of the way that Web3 applications will be created, where you're actually going to be talking to many different smart contracts on many different parachains and L1 ecosystems. It'll all work seamless to you with technology like cross-consensus messaging and also Wormhole's message passing as well, which we can talk about more. But this interoperability that Polkadot offers is really what brought us to the Polkadot ecosystem and to Moonbeam in particular. Moonbeam is an EVM compatible parachain, which means we can use all the same tooling we know and love from Ethereum, and it just works. So we have all the developer tools and Solidity and everything that we know and love from the Ethereum network. So we're pretty excited to be building on Polkadot, and interoperability really is the key that drew us there.
Thanks, Luke. That was an insightful answer. And we echo what Luke said, right? We're from StellaSwap, and we sort of like were into Polkadot since 2016 when Gavin wrote the white paper, and we were fanboys of that. And it took quite a bit of time to materialize all the way until last year, right? Since the first round of parachains went live. And that was when we were all sort of like interested to see, okay, which parachains, because we already sort of like bought into the Polkadot ecosystem, but the only thing left is to choose which parachain would be the one that we'll be building on top of, right? And looking at each parachain, we saw that the Moonbeam was actually one of the natural sort of leaders, and due to its full EVM compatibility, it made total sense for it to be the gateway to Polkadot, to the broader Polkadot ecosystem, right? So yeah, we talked to the team, and we love the direction, and beyond what Luke mentioned about the XCM, the novel XCM approach, where that made so much sense, and that sort of like eliminated sort of the bridge risks, which I'm pretty sure everyone in the Moonbeam ecosystem was was exposed to previously, and didn't want a repeat of that, and therefore native asset transfers within Polkadot was something which is very, very strong. And beyond that, right, the vision of cross-chain connector application with Wormhole, for example, and a lot of other applications to sort of like harness or synergize interoperability between other L1s and networks is something very cool, and Moonbeam is basically at the leading the charge for that.
Yeah, I love how you were saying that you guys really believe in interoperability. That's sort of harks the same message of Wormhole, in the sense that we call ourselves anti-maximalists in a way that we don't believe that L1 should live in silos. They should obviously all be connected, all be able to speak to each other, or your parachain or a separate L1. I'd love to get your thoughts, Aziz and Tiago, on the recent grants from Moonbeam, and how could they actually broaden the ecosystem?
Absolutely. I think this is a very common thing that most of the parachains and blockchains do, which is supporting the community and growing the ecosystem through grants. What we proposed the last couple of months is doing this grant committee, right, which will be able to help decentralize the decisions when it comes to the grant proposals, and it's going to be more in line with what the community expects, in general terms. So this was an initiative, the grant committee was an initiative to make this decentralization. But I think the goal of the grants, of giving the grants, the first thing that we ask ourselves is this helping the Moonbeam ecosystem? Is this helping the Polkadot ecosystem grow? And I think that's what we have in mind, and it's very intangible sometimes, right? Because sometimes it's not just TVL growing, but could be a number of wallets interacting and a lot of people coming into our ecosystem, and that's what we want. So it's been very, very fun, a lot of work to be working as a member of the grant committee. And we have been analyzing and studying and in talks with so many different projects, we have so many different ideas. It's really a Strive ecosystem, where we can see that there are so many good projects that in a very short term, we're going to see them strive.
On that basis, I think the Moonbeam ecosystem grants serves as a very important step to reignite, right, and to create sort of like baseline liquidity. So because unfortunately, what happened with Nomad attack, that assets being depegged and capital outflows, right? So with the Moonbeam system grant, what that allows us to do is rebuild the liquidity, which is very important and vital to the ecosystem, right? Functions DeFi primitives in the ecosystem built there, so that and as you can see, as in the incentives in live for a week now, so you can see coming in, capital inflows is coming in, set the base for conducive for flywheel effects to kick in.
Yeah, and I'd love to get you guys to sort of dive in slightly a bit deeper there. I think we haven't. No worries. I thought we'd lost Aziz then. I'd love to get you guys to dive in a bit deeper on the process of your grants as well. I know, for example, it was voted in to bring Wormhole assets onto Stella and to make obviously Wormhole the canonical bridge, and that was done through a Moonwell grant. What was the exact process of that?
I think I can jump in this one. So in the grant committee, we have 3 types of grants, right? We can analyze level 1 and level 2 grants, and those are like tier 1 and 2, like in the level of the amount of the grant that is being requested, and it has a different process. But for level threes, which was the case of both StellaSwap and Moonwell, the process goes something like that. First of all, they have to submit a proposal in our forum. Before the proposal actually is just a discussion, so they submit like they initiate the discussion about what they want from the grant. There's a lot of conversations, people in favor or against, and they give their comments and thoughts in how they can improve a future proposal if they decided to submit it. And that's what they did. It was a period of time over there on our book assembly, and afterwards they submitted a proposal, and then proposal goes to the grant committee. The grant committee role here is to analyze those proposals to make sure it is aligned, first of all, with the goal, with the strategy, right? I mean, it is about growing our ecosystem. But also our goal is not to, yay or nay, say approve or deny, is basically to give to the next stage where, the overall community will be able to make a vote. Our goal is to make sure the documents, it's all in line, it's all, very well explicit, and a lot of the questions from the community were answered, in the revised documents. So we made sure, everything was covered so that the community can make a good decision. And afterwards goes to a voting process. It takes about 5 days through this voting process, and then the community can vote, yay or nay. And afterwards, this was like basically a 20 days process total, maybe a little bit more or less, but somewhere around that. So it was pretty intensive in the community engagement, which I think was pretty positive, and also show like how engaged we can get. And really, the whole process really shows how good it really is, right? About transparency, about how we make decisions. Sometimes a lot of the other projects, they have the grants, they made a lot of decisions on distributing tokens, but the token holders are not 100% aware of it. And in this case, was very, very transparent, which I think was a big plus for the community.
Yeah, I really liked just how Aziz, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned about the grants process as well as how Wormhole was chosen. When during grants process, we worked together with Moonwell, right, to sort of like dive down on the details, to make all like the emissions, the bridge selection process. So I'll just give you an insight on how that sort of worked. I mean, the entire process looked like 2 months to materialize, right, the bridge selection process. And that was one of the key parameters within our proposal, within both of our proposals, right, as the only 2 recipients of the ecosystem level 3 grants. Because after Nomad Exploit, we had to sort of like do intensive due diligence and thorough analysis across a wide variety of factors to choose, okay, what is going to be the next bridge for the ecosystem, right? And what we did as StellaSwap was to create an extensive bridging framework analysis, which is unbiased across 3 major bridges, for across 3 variables, 3 factors, which included security, financial coverage, as well as user experience, right? So those were the sort of like the foundations of what needed to be used to select the next bridge. And we talked to stakeholders, we talked to our community, we talked to each bridge, to hash out the exact details so that we can make that public, and then that was used by Moonwell in the voting process to get a signaling vote where a majority of the users voted for Wormhole. And so that became one of the key reasons as to why Wormhole was chosen as the leading bridge, given the overarching factors of security, which was prominently fed much better than the rest of the other bridges, as well as financial coverage, as we can see from the backstopping of Jump. Right, so that created the basis for Wormhole as being the strategic bridge on Moonbeam.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. So, as you said about the transparency, you can just go and you can see exactly the reasoning behind why Wormhole was chosen. I just read through the whole document, and it was a very much a transparent vote. Um, the other thing that I'd like to touch on, you said about bringing more liquidity to the Moonbeam community. And I think this is probably a good segue to go into Moonbeam Ignite. What exactly is Ignite?
I can jump in here. So Moonbeam Ignite is a campaign to reignite DeFi on Moonbeam by bringing in a lot of liquidity from various L1 ecosystems, as well as new native assets that have just recently arrived, like Tether, native USDT. So Moonbeam Ignite is the result of the level 3 grants that Thiago was just talking about. They've just been awarded to both StellaSwap and to Moonwell. And those grants are going to now be distributed by our communities to all of the people that are bringing liquidity, whether it's on Wormhole, if you're bringing liquidity on, let's say, wrapped Ethereum, wrapped Bitcoin, or USD coin, or BUSD, which is Binance's stablecoin, on Wormhole. So you can bring that liquidity today from mainnet or from any other network that is supported by the portal bridge at Wormhole. And then you can supply that liquidity as a liquidity provider on StellaSwap, and you can earn some of the Glimmer rewards that were awarded in part of the grant. And those pools are live today, and that will help. It's already helping to build up that base level of liquidity. And then in the coming weeks, probably in the next 2 weeks or so, you'll start to see new markets being proposed by the Moonwell community to be launched on the lending protocol on Moonwell. And basically what's required there, so there's a company called Gauntlet Network that does risk analysis for the Moonwell community and for a lot of the top DeFi projects and protocols out there. And Gauntlet has just recently posted a listing criteria or framework for new markets on our governance forum. So if you're interested in learning more about it, I would encourage you to go to forum.moonwell.fi, and you can read about Gauntlet's proposed market listing framework. And if the community chooses to adopt this, basically anyone in the community can propose to launch a new market. And then once the liquidity is built up sufficiently on StellaSwap and on the other DEXs, then the Moonwell community can activate that new market through governance, and people can start lending and borrowing. And the grants, the first 12 weeks of the grant funding just arrived in the Moonwell comptroller, which basically means that the grant funding is there and available for governance proposals to distribute it to these new markets. So for liquidity providers, whether you're bringing liquidity from another L1 like Ethereum, if you're bringing ETH, BTC, or USD coin, or if you're bringing BUSD from Binance Smart Chain, or native Tether on Polkadot, you can supply that today to StellaSwap and pretty soon to Moonwell, and earn some of the grant funding for helping to rebuild this liquidity. And then the purpose of really just kind of to get back to the basics, the purpose of Moonbeam Ignite is really to reignite DeFi. And there is this, sort of ecosystem or DeFi ecosystem flywheel that can occur if we do everything right. And what that means is that when we have this base liquidity on the DEXs, and then we build up base liquidity on the lending protocols like Moonwell, this gives people more ability to launch new DeFi apps, things like NFT marketplaces, unique new stable coins, new DEX primitives, and other new novel applications that don't exist yet on Moonbeam. And we're already starting to see a few of those appear. I've been talking to other builders like Dam Finance and Prime Protocol. They're actually building, brand new financial primitives on Moonbeam. And it's going to be really exciting to see them arrive, because this base liquidity that's building up through the Moonbeam Ignite will enable their apps to flourish when they arrive, and they'll have the liquidity to power their apps. So that's what we're really excited about helping to build with Moonbeam Ignite.
And Aziz, I'd love to get your sort of, as StellaSwap is currently live with those incentives, I'd love to get your sort of thoughts on how the community have taken to that.
Great, yeah, sure. As in, we launched all of our strategic pools, which included wormhole bridge assets like ETH, WBTC, USDC, right? As well as native assets that we wanted to focus on and would create markets in other protocols like Moonwell, right? Which included native dot as well as native USDT, which is something new. So that all the farms has gone live, as well as our base pool, which includes for the largest stable coins in crypto, right? Which included USDC, USDT, Frax, as well as BUSD, right? And so far, it has been doing very well. Our TVL has surpassed 22 million, after 1 week. So that has been a good sort of igniting the growth of the ecosystem as base liquidity via StellaSwap. And we can see capital inflows coming back to Moonbeam Network, especially at this market conditions where you can see it's quite bearish, but you can see good capital inflows coming back to Moonbeam and creating base liquidity. The reason base liquidity is very important is that it really creates a good, as in a robust environment for price discovery, right? For efficient price discovery, and therefore, things like cost of trading is like slippage, right? It's minimal, right? And that is basically the building blocks of creating a robust marketplace and ecosystem. So that depth of liquidity needed to happen. So with all the strategic assets and farms live now, the most important thing right now would be to sort of like push forward the growth of this incentive program, this ecosystem incentive program, and get greater eyeballs, right, and exposure, and via a shared or joint campaign, right, which is Moonbeam Ignite. That is where we sort of like create strategies, campaigns, and promotions to ensure that we can grow this this campaign to a wider set of eyes across DeFi. And that's the main focus right now of Moonbeam Ignite campaign, to actually just grow our initiatives.
I think it's honestly such a good campaign that you guys are running. As Luke mentioned, it's not only sort of incentivizing the community, but also the builders in Moonbeam, actually getting the liquidity onto Moonbeam and being able to start seeing these really new, exciting projects and DeFi opportunities. And I'm sure the community of Moonwell is also looking forward to being able to get in on that as well. So now to sort of spin it onto more of a wormhole side, how is it you guys see the value that wormhole brings to the Moonbeam ecosystem and community? And with us coming on board, what are the possibilities with the arrival of wormhole that you didn't see before?
So for the first, in the first case, the wormhole portal bridge basically provides a really nice permissionless bridge to bridge tokens from any ecosystem to any other ecosystem. And the permissionless aspect of it is really nice, because what that means basically is that if you're an asset issuer on some other network like Ethereum or Solana, you don't even have to worry about talking to the wormhole team. You don't have to ask for their permission to list your asset or to bridge it. You can just bridge it, and they will create a wrapped representation for it on all the other L1s that you might want to bridge it to. And so that gives wormhole this sort of like, neutral wrapping capability where you can wrap any asset on one chain and move it to another. And now that exists on Moonbeam, there's nothing stopping any team that's on a different L1 from either moving their application to Moonbeam completely or building a connected version or cross-chain version of their application. So that's a pretty big unlock. And then the other like more interesting use case is really to use wormhole as a message passing layer, as a secure message router. And this is how you can create those, connected contracts, excuse me, use cases that exist out there, like where you can create an application, for example, that might let you take collateral on one network and then borrow against it on another network, or it might allow you to swap tokens from one token on Ethereum to another token on Solana or on Moonbeam, for example. And so that message passing layer, we are already starting to see that be used in new applications like Prime Protocol. which is an on-chain prime or cross-chain prime broker. And they're actually using Wormhole as one of their message passing layers. And it's really interesting to kind of see these new architectures being built out. It's very much like the early days of the internet. So I think that this is going to unlock a lot of really critical, important use cases for cross-chain applications.
And yeah, you sort of brought up Prime Protocol there. There's some pretty exciting things that are coming up, and I guess it adds to the liquidity coming onto Moonbeam. You also mentioned the fact that Wormhole doesn't obviously double wrap, which is a huge thing that we've seen from community and some of these other things. It does get a bit confusing bridging your assets sometimes. So really having that ability to not have a double wrapping going on is as you said, a massive unlock. Is there anything for Aziz or Tiago? What are you excited of Wormhole coming to Moonbeam?
Yeah, I think just echoing what Luke mentioned, right? Two main thing, which is you know Wormhole connecting all the major blockchain networks together, so it makes it very easy to bridge from one network to the other, right? But beyond just the bridging function, right? I think it's very important to look at where DeFi is headed, which is cross-chain, right? Because that's where you unlock values or synergies across other networks, instead of just being siloed. Right? And the way, obviously, right now is general message passing across via protocols like Wormhole, right? And that is very important to unlock, as Luke said, use cases, like really novel use cases, that just enhances the user experience, especially, right? Because you can imagine if you're a user and you want to get a coin in another network, right? So you can do it with just one click at the source chain. So cross-chain swaps, cross-chain lending and borrowing or collateralization, those use cases is something that is going to be very popular because it really abstracts the user journey and make it much more simpler. So harnessing those kind of use cases, I think, via Wormhole is something which we are very excited to work with other projects on.
Yeah, it's all really at the end of the day down to user experience, and we're trying to abstract that sort of messaging layer as far away from users as possible. And at the end of the day, the goal is just for L1s as well as parachains, just to be able to talk to each other without making the user's journey be this awful thing that they get really confused and have to go to all these different protocols to interact with. You spoke slightly there about sort of where the space is going, and I'd love to sort of as we move on to the end of the space here, ask you guys, where do you think that the DeFi space will be going in the next 2 years? What role will you be playing? And what is it that you're excited that's coming up in the Moonbeam ecosystem?
Oh, this is a tough question. Where's everything going in the next 2 years? I'll try to answer. So yeah, beyond, I mean, for Moonwell in particular, as a community, we just launched governance, and that's been really exciting, is to sort of explore the frontiers of on-chain governance and to try to do it in a more user-friendly way, and think about how to, how to enable tools for like your average DeFi user to basically be able to, create governance proposals on their own without having to have like a software engineering background to do that. So we've been pretty exciting about trying to democratize some of the tools. I do think in the next couple of years, things will become a lot more user friendly. And I think one of the big keys to that will be, sort of abstracting away the notion of like which layer one network you're on. And And if you think about, you know, like the early days of the internet, you were in these walled gardens, like America Online or AOL, where, you know, you didn't really have access to maybe the full internet, or if you weren't on the right walled garden, you couldn't email your friends and family. But that's going to all go away and blend into the background. And when we see applications that span multiple layer one networks that use messaging protocols like Wormhole and like cross consensus messaging on Polkadot, we're going to actually those things about like what network is my wallet connected to, and am I on the right network, and am I using the right wallet to interact with this application? Those problems and user experience, like, you know, those rough edges will go away, and you'll just be using applications in a browser or on your mobile phone, and you won't necessarily know that it's on Moonbeam or that it's on, you know, some other network, and you'll just be able to interact with that application in a seamless way. And you might be getting identity services from one network, you might be getting, you know, liquidity from another, you might be getting some type of, you know, like storage or image hosting services from another network, and you won't really necessarily know, but you're just going to have like a seamless application. It might be a metaverse game, it might be like, you know, some kind of, you know, NFT experience or something, and you won't really know, you know, you won't have to worry about which network you're on. So I'm kind of excited about that future where, you know, the sort of infrastructure and all of the, you know, tech details kind of blend into the background, and, you know, users can focus on just the application they're using, and developers can focus on building really great experiences for users.
Yeah, I completely agree with Luke. You know, it's a tough question when you think about 2 years ahead. The DeFi space, you know, like 2 years in DeFi is like 40 years in real life.
On Stella's end, as in, I think within, I mean, in 2 years 2 years is in DeFi is a long time. I mean, crypto generally is a long time, right? But where we're most excited in is to sort of like explore the frontier of cross-chain applications, and that's where Moonbeams is headed, right? As in exploring all this, where, you know, all the complexities that you kind of see, even as natives, right? We can, I mean, it is quite, you know, complex, right? When you sort of like venture across DeFi, venture across many protocols, right? So I think where we need, that entire space requires sort of like a facelift, right? Is the focus towards simplicity, right? And to do that as in cross-chain applications is something which could really abstract a lot of the complexities, and that's where, you know, as we've sort of discussed throughout this AMA, right? And that is where it's headed, right, the next 2 years. Beyond that, I think for us, it's really important for us to look at and if you look across the space, right, the constant optimization and enhancements of how DeFi is run. For example, our business is a DEX, right? So the most important thing for us to optimize is how to make trading as efficient as possible. And you look at how the sort of evolution of trading of AMMs come into play, where there's so much innovations on that. For example, the concentrated liquidity that we're also building with the help of algebra, right? So those kind of things that really enhances the user experience. So at the end of the day, it all goes back to how we can create more value to the users. And all this sort of like innovations in DeFi, where you really optimize on every single vertical. That is something that I guess it's continually going to keep on improving. And once that gets better and better and better, you can see a shift towards a much more simpler user experience. And that is truly when, you know, you perhaps within these 2 years is when, you know, when you ask your parents to interact in DeFi protocols, it will be easy for them. So I think that's the main goal that we are headed towards.
Yeah, that's why you bring up parents. I think right now it's a bit of a baptism by fire of getting into Web3 completely. Not only do you have to worry about onboarding, but then you have to worry about, you know, what L1 or what you're going to be on, and then you have to worry about, you know, 4 different wallets. It's you know, your average Joe isn't going to end up going through with that at the end of the day. So your parents are going to struggle to get on board with it. But really making that user experience and sort of the future of interoperability is something that I'm really excited about. Right. I think that's everything from my side. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick plug to our newly formed governance, our on-chain governance. There's going to be a lot of proposals going through in the next few weeks from the community to launch new markets and to enable some of the Glimmer rewards for the ecosystem grants from Moonbeam Ignite to be awarded to people that are supplying, lending, and borrowing in those markets. So if you're interested in participating, please go to moonwell.fi. We also have a gov portal, gov.moonwell.fi, and a forum.moonwell.fi. So please come and participate. There are new markets, and we'd love to have more community participation that are in the creation and launching of those markets, and assigning the Glimmer rewards. So if you have a favorite asset that you're going to be bridging on Wormhole, and you want to get the maximum amount of Glimmer rewards for for bringing your asset to Moonbeam, please participate in governance and vote for the assets you want to see on Moonwell. Thanks for letting us be here, and it's been great chatting with you this morning.
Yeah, thanks. As you said, go participate in the governance and check out the Glimmer Awards. Got some really exciting things happening on Moonbeam, especially with that added layer of liquidity. Tiago, Aziz, is there anything else before we go?
Yeah, so my final thoughts is just thank you, everybody. I think this was a very good beginning of this partnership, of bringing more assets towards, and we definitely welcome Wormhole to our ecosystem. We're really, really happy, to see more and more solutions come to our platform. So we're pretty excited for the next steps.
Right. So can you guys hear me okay? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So thanks again to Moonbeam, Moonwell, and StellaSwap. I've really enjoyed getting an opportunity to be able to talk to you guys and hear about all the exciting things coming up. I'm really proud to be, in partnerships with you guys to really work towards that grand vision of interoperability. So thanks again for hopping on, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.